I want to really talk about the insider stuff in newsrooms for people who don't know how it really is in newsroom.
When your story broke, it was such a relief to me that I wasn't the only one feeling the same way, right?
Yeah.
Being frustrated with what was happening in the newsroom.
Fox Corp has been muzzling me to keep certain information from you, the viewers.
I will be sitting down this week with Project Veritas to discuss the discrimination that CBS is enforcing upon its employees.
Fellow news whistleblower April Moss and I sat down for some real talk on the real culture inside the newsrooms. Not a lot of places you're going to get this sort of honesty as far as politics in the newsrooms, toxicity in the newsrooms, your boss's obsession with your appearance, the real deal on agents, and how those stories really get spun. So don't want to miss this interview coming up right now. But first, a word from my sponsor for this video. Tapering, a word being used a lot right now, isn't it? It's a Fed code word for taking money from your pocket. Janet Yellen predicted we would never witness a new financial crisis, but the Fed owes over $30 trillion. Stop your money being taken by creating a precious metal IRA or 401k with Noble Gold. They are giving away a free 5-ounce solid silver America the Beautiful bullion coin with each qualifying plan you start this month as a thank you. Call 877-646-5347 or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Link in description. Okay, enjoy this talk. Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to bring on CBS whistleblower April Moss. She blew the whistle on her news outlet the week after I did, when I blew the whistle on Fox this summer. And our whole lives have been upended ever since then, and we've gone independent. Thank you so much for coming on, April.
Thanks so much for having me, Ivory. I'm so happy to be here with you. I truly, truly respect you. And I'm just so grateful that we were able to share that moment together, really. I mean, I had no idea that you were working with Project Veritas the same time I was. And so when your story broke, it was such a relief to me that I wasn't the only one feeling the same way, right? Being frustrated with what was happening in the newsroom. And so, I think that forever you and I are going to be connected, right?
Yes.
With just that, those early moments of being a whistleblower and wanting true journalism to be what is continually perpetuated in the media. And I think that you and I, as we've continued to evolve in our independent journalism since we blew the whistle on our news outlets, I think that, people are so grateful that there's people like us that have come forward and just been truthful and authentic, which is, I know that that's your heart, that's my heart. And we just want people to know truth.
Absolutely. And I think there were a lot of news people who felt the same way. A lot of them, reaching out in confidence to me, but also there was a Hawaii news anchor. His name's Brent. And
I'm no longer working at KITV4 News. In short, I lost my job for standing up to my now former bosses.
Get this, he had the showdown in his newsroom the same week that the showdown of me live on air happened, except his thing didn't go public until a month later when he finally announced, yeah, I've been let go because of that showdown that happened the same week as me. Of course, he and I didn't know each other existed. We didn't know that we were both dealing with fake news in our newsrooms. You and I didn't know each other. And then we start to hear from these other news people. So many news people this past year especially have been really, their eyebrows are raising about, wait a sec, is this the journalism that we thought we got into, or are we more and more seeing this meta narrative take shape regardless of the facts on the ground? And so it's an interesting time in the history of the media when it comes to, those are facts we can't talk about. Okay, these are facts that we must praise, and
the narrative.
How about just getting back to the basics of journalism? And so I want to really talk about the insider stuff in newsrooms for people who don't know how it's really is a newsroom. Maybe you're just curious. Maybe you're thinking of getting into journalism. And so we can talk about our own experiences in corporate newsrooms and give people some insight, some advice. I first want to start with this headline we keep hearing about these news people that just keep shutting off, getting out of the corporations. And this guy, article from adweek.com, morning anchor who quit Phoenix station celebrates end to professional toxicity. That is specifically something that he wrote when he wrote on Facebook that he was saying goodbye. He posted a picture of him taking his mic off for the last time at KPNX, the NBC affiliate. And he wrote that it was a hard decision, but he was so glad to end the professional toxicity. So you, having been in a corporate newsroom for how many years?
9 years.
9 years. It was
Yeah.
9 years for me too. I didn't realize we both worked in corporate news for 9 years full time.
Yeah.
So for you, when you hear about professional toxicity, what do you think he's talking about?
You know, Ivory, I think that one point that is so important to make is that I would say 90% of the people in newsrooms across America would say that they vote Democrat. And so if you think about that, you've got a good majority of people in the newsrooms who are all thinking the same way, right? They're all thinking left. And you might have 10%, one or two people who are more libertarian or even conservative. And so that creates a dynamic within the newsroom where the majority of the stories are being crafted in such a way that fits that left narrative or left agenda. And then you have, you know, maybe a dissenting viewpoint from a conservative or a libertarian that says, well, wait a second, you know, we need to think about the other side here. And from people, I know that you and I both have been in contact with multiple people across the United States who, since our stories have come forward, they have, they're currently in newsrooms across America right now. And they're saying, I'm the only one in my newsroom who's trying to bring objectivity into the stories. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a culture of leftism in newsrooms. So that could be part of what he's talking about. He didn't get into the details of what was so toxic, but let me just say, I worked at a Fox affiliate in South Carolina, NBC affiliate in Kentucky, NBC affiliate in Minneapolis, and then Fox owned in Houston. And it was, all of them were left leaning, especially the one in NBC in Minneapolis. Oh my gosh, like
I'm sure it was.
Leftism was their god. But
that's like how it was in CBS Detroit. So similar. And well, I think the toxicity part, I mean, you and I are just surmising this, right? From our experience in our newsrooms. But when you're the only one who's trying to bring the objectivity, it does feel like a toxic work environment because you feel like you can't relate to anybody that you're working with, that everybody else around you is, you know, thinking a different way than you are. And you're made to feel like this outcast, even though you're saying, I'm not trying to sway it to, you know, a far right perspective. I just want it to be balanced and objective, which, hello, is what we learned in journalism school. I mean, it shouldn't be something where you and I feel like we are the rejects of the newsroom because we want to try to bring objectivity in. And I don't know about you, but one of the major things that Viacom CBS was really enforcing upon all of its affiliate stations was to and skin color in every story.
Wait, can you say that last sentence again? Because you broke up.
Oh, sure. Was that Viacom CBS was enforcing in every story gender and skin color. They wanted it to be in every single story. And, you know, Ivory, we're on TV. So when you're interviewing someone, they can clearly see what skin color the person has. And I would bring this up to my producers all the time. I would say, why do I have to reiterate what skin color this person has? The viewers can see what their skin color is.
They wanted you to specifically say the person's skin color?
Yes. If it was racist. If it was a black person, that we had to reiterate that they were black constantly. And I was like, and I would bring this up all the time, like in our, you know, in our meetings and things like that, before a story would even, you know, be developed, right? When we were talking about, okay, here's the topic of what we want to talk about on this show today. And you know, and honestly, Ivory, the people that I would interview the last time I did the show, where basically I kind of drew the line and said, I'm never going to be a host on this show again, because you guys just, it's every week I'm having to say the same thing again and again. Nobody listens to me. And it's frankly, you know, as an on-air personality, it's our face on there asking these questions, right, to your guest, or to the person that you're interviewing. And so it makes you look ridiculous when you're asking questions. For example, I interviewed a woman who, she was a white woman, but she was a female engineer for General Motors working on the Cadillac Lyric, which is their new green energy vehicle that's going to be coming out in the next couple of years. So my producer specifically was saying in my ear, and it was written in my script, that I needed to reiterate the fact that she was a female. And he wanted me to make sure that I asked her, what was it like to be a female engineer in a male dominated like atmosphere?
Those leading questions.
Right. And I purposely was skirting around that question because I'm like, that's a dumb question. I know tons of women engineers. This is nothing new. Like in my mind, this is what I was thinking. Right. So finally he says it for the third time. And I'm like, okay, I could potentially like get in really big trouble if I don't ask this question, because he's not just my producer. He's like my boss. And so I asked the question, I said, what's it like to be mortified? What's it like to be a female engineer? And she looked at me, Ivory, and was like, so taken aback and offended by that question. Wow. And she's like, well, I never think about my gender when I'm doing my job. And I wanted to be like, yes, I know. Thank you. You know, like this was so ridiculous. And then she says, and actually the up and coming like new people that are being hired into General Motors that do tours in our facility all the time. She goes, there's so many women being hired in science and technology. Right. And after that interview, I literally said to my producer, I said, I will never again do something like that because it makes me look ridiculous. I didn't want to say it in the first place. And it has no application for today's society. Like we've had maybe 50 years ago, Ivory, it was groundbreaking, right? That women were engineers, but we have a female vice president right now. Like women are at the top of their game right now, more so than they ever have been. What can you and I not do that a man can do, right? There's no limit, right, for women right now.
Right. And actually a lot of people don't realize that the news industry itself is female dominated at this point. It's in newsrooms, it's primarily women, at least the newsrooms I've worked in. And it was well known throughout the course of my career that more women were more desired in the newsroom, you know, by news directors. They wanted to have female faces because it would bring the audience in more. And so I think in our industry, if anyone has a disadvantage, it might be men, actually.
And white males, let's just be honest. If we're going to be completely honest, white males, because the way that they're doing things now is like, in my opinion, it's reverse discrimination.
The news directors want diversity, so they're looking for minority faces. So if you're Black,
there's
Hispanic,
nothing
or
wrong
Asian
with that. I mean,
then you have a better chance of getting hired.
Exactly.
My TV talent agents straight up said that to me. Yeah, it's so true. I literally, when I was looking for the job, which eventually landed me at Fox in Houston, I sat down with my TV talent agent in LA. He opened a big old binder with every job opening across the country. And just about every single one, it listed what the bosses were looking for: Black, Hispanic, Black, Hispanic, Black, Hispanic. He's like, sorry, Ivory, I'll do my best, but you're white. And I was just like, wow.
Right. You know, and that's just the thing is like, I am grateful that at least at CBS, at Detroit, I didn't feel that way. I was able to get, you know, keep a job for 9 years there, being a white female. But, and here's the other thing, like, I mean, I think it's great. I want to see diversity, right? There's nothing wrong with diversity.
Totally.
Where I think we've gone wrong though, is if we're only looking at someone's skin color and we're not looking anymore at their talents, or things like that. And I just think that it's something that we have to be careful about, because we don't want to create an environment of racism. Certainly, like, we're not, that's not who we are. That's not who we are. And
I remember
so,
there was just one time where being female went against me, when
oh yeah,
I was seeking a job at CBS Los Angeles, and I got an email back from the news director bluntly saying, "Sorry, not looking for any female people at this point." That was
I can't believe they actually told you that, right?
Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay, got it. But so TV is very superficial. It's one thing people should know. If you're getting into this industry, it's very superficial. They care a lot about how you look. They do care. They care about your hair color. In fact, they care about your haircut. And long hair was going against me, but I wanted it anyway. So they might tell you to cut your hair, but they also going to care. They are going to care about your race, actually. And I told, if I had Hispanic interns, and I told them, you have a good shot in this industry for being Hispanic. I mean, you're gonna be in demand. So this is a wonderful thing. And sure enough, one of my interns shot straight from, like, her first market was a small town in Kentucky, just learning how to be a reporter. And after that, she went straight to Tampa, which is the 11th biggest TV market in America.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not even surprised. She's a beautiful Hispanic girl, and she was talented on top of it. Like,
and that's, and that's phenomenal. Like, that's amazing and great. What we have to be careful about is, the whole reason we got into this problem, I would say, decades ago, was that we ended up valuing somebody only by their skin color, right? We can't do that, right? It's got to be equal across the boards. But
and it's funny, this one time I was talking with some other of my TV girlfriends, and one was Black and one was Asian, and of course I was white, and we all came to the realization that each of us thought that we had a disadvantage in this industry because of our race.
Wow,
like
really?
The Asian was like, nobody's looking for an Asian reporter. And I was thinking, well, nobody's looking for white because they want minority. And the Black girl felt the same. And it's like, gosh, maybe we should all chill out about our race. But no, just looking at my agent's binder, he provided the proof that yes, news directors do really judge you by your appearance.
Yeah.
In fact,
absolutely.
When I was an intern at ABCLA, sat down with the news director and said, how can I make it in this business? And the first thing she said was your appearance. She straight up said, you need to be so good looking that when they're flipping the channels, they stop when they see you. So the first thing she looks for, and she's a female herself, she's like, yeah, you got to be a hot chick.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just the nature of TV, right? I mean, that's just, it is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but beyond that, and I think all of those things contribute to what some people call a toxic newsroom environment. If we go back to this news article, which, by the way, I don't think I named him. This guy's name, he was the morning anchor, Ryan Cody, social media post saying he's focusing on his mental health now and he's getting out of the professional toxicity. It can be toxic for a man when the boss says, hey, your haircut is a half inch too long, fix that. And like you just you feel so over monitored. So sometimes it's like political pressure in the newsroom. I know there was one newsroom producer I talked to who said that he had to go into, or basically most people went into hiding. If they were a right winger, they would hide the fact that they were right. Well, this guy didn't. He actually put Trump decorations at his newsroom desk. Wow. And
I'm surprised he didn't show up with like getting eggs, thrown at his desk. And
he got, in so many words, he got the eggs. Like he got singled out and eventually destroyed in the industry. I'm probably going to have to tell his story publicly someday. But so there's a lot of things that contribute too.
Well, I think, Ivory, you and I both know when we were going to school for journalism, we were told the best reporter is somebody who can write a story with both sides of an argument, and the person reading that article or, hearing the news story has no clue what side of the political aisle that you're on. And so that was always my intent. And I right now I'm publicly a conservative, but I never would have wanted anybody to know where I stood politically, because it was so important for me to portray truth and objectivity within my reporting, that it shouldn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. The problem is, when COVID was introduced to the world, I feel like that's when, at least for me at my station, all objectivity in reporting was just thrown out the window. It was as if there was just a blanket statement or direction from corporate, Viacom, CBS, to all of its affiliate stations, saying like, this is the way, the direction that we are going to do things, and this is the line you have to take. And it was so far left that you couldn't even bring it to be objective. And
by left, do you mean saying mandates are good? Like
meaning that
freedom is good?
Yeah, like for example, like we're only going to fearmonger people about COVID. We're never going to tell them about the vitamins they can take or the therapeutics they can take, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm still thinking, like, when did healthcare become left and right? Like, when did what nourishes your body or what protects your body become left or right?
Well, I think COVID was the defining moment on that, because they were so intent on making sure that everyone got vaccinated, that was the only cure for COVID. And therefore, you were not allowed to talk about any other treatment that was safe and effective, or else you were labeled as being a conspiracy theorist or far right, even though the president of the United States held every single day a press conference at the White House with multiple doctors to discuss all the different, 15 different ways you could be cured of COVID. And there was no reason for all the fear mongering and the lockdowns and the mask wearing, and why were the TV stations not picking up on these press conferences and saying, oh, wow, look, we have this doctor today that showed us that in less than 30 seconds, the virus is killed as soon as you walk outside, or in ultraviolet light, the virus is killed. Or how about this, like, Ivory, this technology has been around for decades. It's what is it, like the air purification systems that you can just add on to your house, like into your furnace, and it literally ionizes everything. I mean, we've had this technology. And
I was assigned to do a live interview with a guy who sells that equipment. And when it was brought up, the equipment he sells, because we were talking about masks, but I got scolded by my boss for talking about his company.
See what I mean? Like, it's stuff like that. Like, why on earth would we not be able to give the public truthful information that would stop the fear? Because people didn't see their families for an entire year because of fear.
Yeah, it's sad. The fear mongering, it's definitely a culture in the newsroom. Like, okay, the scarier I can make this story, the more viewers are going to react, the more my boss is going to praise me, and so it becomes kind of this culture of like, well, let's overhype this story as much as possible. But and what was it, Stossel, what was his first name? Stossel on ABC. What was it?
John Stossel.
He had a segment called Hype where he would call this out, basically. Call out the overhype.
Where is he now?
Back in the early 2000s. We need him bad right now.
Right.
But I mean, I think what really fell by the wayside was like the local reporting of facts on the ground. When you're a journalist, you're supposed to go out and collect and just kind of explore what's happening in the community and bring it back and report it. and not go by a bullet point narrative before you leave. I think what we saw happen in newsrooms with the pandemic was suddenly it was like, well, here's what the CDC says is happening. So go out and find the facts that corroborate what the CDC says. And if you find any facts that don't, you ignore those. Okay. So, you find 10 people whose life experience is completely contrary to the CDC. Well, forget those people. Find the one whose story corroborates the CDC, because that's the CDC is gospel.
And that's why I continue to say that when the media is not being the watchdog of the people, right, by presenting all sides of the information, then we have effectively become their enemy. And that's why you and I decided to come forward, because we were just disgusted by it. We were disgusted by the lack of transparency and authenticity. And we were seeing people that we loved. I mean, our loved ones and our friends were seeing their lives be completely changed and altered for absolutely no reason, right? I mean, I can't tell you how heartbreaking it was to find out that there were family members of mine that literally went an entire year without seeing their grandchildren because they were so terrified by what was being put forth on the news. And I felt such a responsibility, as a journalist, to say, this is not okay. People are not visiting each other. There's people dying in nursing homes, not of a disease, but of loneliness and depression, because they're separated by glass and they can't see their loved ones. I mean, it's inhumane the way that the elderly have been treated over the last 2 years now. We could go on and on about it. I mean, you and I are both on the same page of that. We knew what the effective treatments were. You did, early stories on ivermectin and were, not allowed to publish them. And, you had amazing interviews with Dr. McCullough and so many other great doctors. And then, like you said, the one manufacturer of the company that cleans the air, right, with the filtration systems. These are all things. I mean, even just as simple as, I think one of the doctors that Trump interviewed even just said, simply washing with soap and water gets rid of this virus. Like, it is the easiest. And you know what? I'll go a step further. My husband was a principal at a school at the time when COVID broke out, and they contacted the cleaning company that normally does all the cleaning for the school. And that company said, my husband was like, hey, we need you to get, the best disinfectant that you have. Like, we have to make sure that we get this school completely ready for reopening in the fall. And the cleaning company was like, listen, what the products we use, it kills COVID. Like, there's nothing more that we will do that we haven't already always done. Like, so I guess my point is that the media was complicit in ramping up the fear among people. And what did that do? It took people away from their family and their loved ones unnecessarily. And I think that you and I are both disgusted by that, and why we felt so compelled to share our stories, and why we feel so compelled today still to continue to do independent journalism and telling the truth, because you can turn on mainstream media and you'll never hear the stories that you and I talk about.
Right, exactly. And look, let's be clear. This is a virus that does hit certain people very hard.
Absolutely.
But the hype was a real thing, right? From the very beginning. My boss didn't want to put out recovery rates. She didn't want viewers to know how quickly you recover from this virus. The fact that thousands of people were fine in a few days, every day. Every day there was a new set of thousands of people who are good, they recovered, but don't let people know they recovered. So there was this push to overhype from the beginning, and then to spin the numbers. How can we put out the most hysterical numbers? Okay, the death rate is looking low. Don't talk about the death rate then. Things like that, which is just so wrong. How about you be a straight shooter with these numbers? Oh, I think you broke up.
Yeah, you just broke up, but we're back.
Okay, cool. So I think if for people getting into news, just remember to stay loyal to the facts on the ground and to truth about the numbers, and now that I'm outside of the corporation, I am dedicating most of my time to the facts that are being suppressed, being hidden by the media. Someone asked me the other day, why aren't you talking about the hundreds of thousands of people who died without being vaccinated? And I said, because the media has done a great job of covering that.
Exactly.
So it's my job to cover what they won't let you know, is that countless people are now dying with the vaccine.
Yeah, you're so right.
So if we all just covered all of it from the beginning, then I wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't have a job because I have a lot of work to do now covering everything that the media doesn't want to tell you.
It's so true. I feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders sometimes because so many people are constantly, I guarantee they're doing this with you as well, reaching out to me, which I'm grateful for.
Mhm.
But it's heartbreaking, Ivory, because
oh my gosh,
all of these stories are heartbreaking. It's
oh yeah,
my father's in the hospital on a ventilator. Please help me.
Oh, yeah.
It's right. And I never thought in a million years that my job would be to help facilitate someone getting the proper treatment in a hospital. I mean,
Mhm.
think about where our world has come to when people go to the hospital and it's almost more dangerous for them to enter the hospital than for them to stay at home and get treatment from a doctor who will actually prescribe them correct medication.
Yeah, scary times.
That's a very scary thing.
I've never in my life had like every single Instagram DM be a critically important, devastating story.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, sometimes it stresses me out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. I'm just one person.
I'm so glad that you feel the same way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. None of the media is pitching in to cover these stories. So they're all flooding to people like you and me.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Ivory, it's so important what you just said, is that if the media was doing their job to actually give people real resources why isn't the media stomping into the emergency rooms of all of these hospitals and demanding an answer as to why people are being put on remdesivir when we know that when they tried to use remdesivir in 2017 and 2018 in the Congo, 50% of the patients died. Right. But because Fauci said, that all the hospitals should be using remdesivir, now that's what all of these people are being put on instead of being given, by the way, the other medication starting with an H and then a C and then a Q about, which was a study that was done in a clinical trial in 2020 at Henry Ford Health System in Michigan, and decided in that study that was published in July of 2020, for anyone who wants to research this, that study revealed that every single patient that was treated was healed and nobody died.
So get this, I have a friend who is a reporter in Detroit right now, not going to out this person, but they covered that for their mainstream outlet at the time. And it just dawned on them, they had recovered that recently. They tried to find it for me and send it to me. The mainstream outlet had wiped it from their website as if they had never covered it. Oh, our mistake. We accidentally covered some facts outside the narrative. We'll pretend we didn't do that. Gone from the website. Can you believe that?
I can believe it. And it's a crime. It's a crime. And that's the thing, Ivory, is like, again, it goes back to, and so in August, so July 2020, this article comes out saying, hey, guess what? We have a drug that's already been FDA approved. It's been on the market for 60 some years. And hey, what do you know? It heals people. And then the very next month, the government came down and said, absolutely not. You're not going to prescribe that anymore. And now what do we have? All of these cases of people getting sick. And you and I haven't even touched on the jabs, right? And what we're seeing happening from the jabs. And I'm sure you've seen the slides of the blood of people who have been vaxxed versus unvaxxed, underneath the microscope. You can see the blood clotting happening with people who have already received the jab. So
why is the media turning a blind eye to that?
Right.
I just want to tell people aspiring to be journalists, maintain your curiosity. There's pressure right now to
Yes.
not be curious. You get punished for being curious.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, someone sent me a tip about a slide of someone's blood. It looks alarming. How dare you be curious about that blood? You
Right.
know,
That's investigative journalism. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's a
what we
crying
live
shame.
for.
the crying shame.
Yeah.
You know, and this idea of conspiracy theorists is now being thrown on everyone to peer pressure them out of curiosity. No,
Right.
if you're curious about that topic, you're a conspiracy theorist. But a
Right.
good investigative journalist used to be someone who digs into these crazy tips they get and then uncovers something really important and lets the public
Yep.
know about it.
Yep.
But they're
You're
all
exactly
peer
right.
pressured out of it now.
But I will say this to anybody listening who, is a little bit nervous about going into journalism, but you know that that's what you really want to do. Go for it. Go and fight hard in your newsroom for objectivity. And you know what? If you can't get it, if you're not able to get the truth out, the American people will support you if you decide to go independent. I mean, Ivory, you and I have gotten so much support, and there are up and coming networks. There are places where you can go to be able to report truth. Even if the mainstream media is not going to allow you to do that, but we need more truth tellers, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
that's
and
what we need.
I bet you could even just do it on your social media.
Mhm.
No, you don't even need to work for a news outlet these days.
Right. Exactly.
If you're an
Well-
independent journalist, if you're starting out as a journalist, grow your social media, focus on growth. And you know how you grow is by providing people with posts that help them.
Yep.
And once you grow your social media, you can monetize your social media. You can be a successful independent journalist. Screw the corporation.
Exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah. All right. Well, any last words you want to say? I'm so glad you came on.
Yeah, this was really fun. Well, I think we need to have some more like just off the cuff interviews, just you and I, just kind of discussions of what's going on. Maybe like once a month we should plan to do this, just kind of a
Totally.
discussion of like, okay, let's do a recap of what happened in this last month and what are some
Yeah.
of the top things. And
That'd be great.
I would love that so much. And yeah, no, I think that the world is craving truth right now.
Yeah.
And so if you just work really, really hard to get the truth out to people, you're going to find the viewers and the followers that you're going to need to be successful. And to any of these people that are still working in newsrooms across America and they feel like they're the only ones left, we want to encourage you as well that again, like your voice is very important. And I know a lot of people who are currently in newsrooms and they're struggling. It's hard because they're the only ones that are standing up for objectivity. But think about what the impact would be if you weren't there at that station.
Mhm.
So keep at it, keep doing what's right. And as long as you know that you're doing what's right, you'll never, I don't think you'll have any regrets. You just have to keep true to yourself and to your intuition and follow that.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, thank you so much, April. And we will talk soon. Okay. We'll do this again.
Sounds great, Ivory. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Okay. Talk to you.
Bye.